My boss's computer screen was still on, and the last email had been sent exactly at 3:17 a.m. That was the moment I knew something was wrong. The screen hadn't gone dark, yet no key had been touched. It was as if someone had simply walked away during their last moment of work, and then vanished. The office building appeared to be completely vacated at 11:45 p.m. The security system was active. All entrances were locked. No motion detectors had been triggered, and yet that email had been sent. At first glance, it looked like a system glitch. Maybe it was a scheduled message. Maybe someone accidentally hit send on a draft. But the deeper I dug, the stranger it got. The email's content was ordinary, just a single sentence, but the recipient didn't exist in the system, and attached to the message was an encrypted tracking protocol designed to go unnoticed. And that protocol didn't belong to the company's infrastructure. When I clicked the file, the screen didn't freeze, the system didn't crash, but I knew there was no going back. That night, inside the headquarters of a high-security software firm in Seattle, not just a man but an entire framework vanished. When I first opened the case file, it looked like a missing person case, but soon it began to feel like an inside job, a digital sabotage carefully engineered. The missing person was the company's CEO and co-founder Daniel Cross, 43 years old, flawless career, a national expert in security systems and cryptography. But that morning, Cross's desk was perfectly in order. His wallet, phone, and car were in the parking lot, access badge inside the building, and Daniel himself gone. The only clue left behind was an open email window on his monitor. Sent at 3:17 a.m., some offices become buried in silence at night. But that night it felt like something moved within the silence. Maybe it wasn't physical. Maybe it was code. Maybe someone accessed the system remotely, or maybe they were still inside. If it were you, where would you start? Would you focus on the email's contents or the missing 8 seconds from the security footage? Every detail of the case began to paint a darker picture. And I knew this wasn't just a disappearance. It was a test. Someone was probing the limits of the system and the limits of our awareness. If you're curious about what hides behind cases like this, how they're solved, and the secrets hidden between the lines, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. This is only the beginning. If you're sharp enough, you might catch some clues before I do. In the next chapter, the office layout, security logs, and initial intel on the employees. Who was the first suspect? Do you think the CEO could have sabotaged his own system? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Some answers might be hidden in your instincts. If you're ready, the next step leads us into the shadows of code and deception. The discovery begins. The night he disappeared, no camera showed him leaving the building, but by morning his chair was still warm. It was a rainy Seattle morning. When the janitor reached the 17th floor at 6:03 a.m., the first thing that caught her eye was the faint glow still seeping from Daniel Cross's office. The glass-walled room was neat, not a single sheet of paper out of place. But the chair had been pushed back, as if someone had left in a hurry. The first person to enter the office that morning was Laura Mitchell, the head of HR. She usually arrived earlier than everyone else and quietly walked through the office floor. At first, she wasn't surprised not to see Daniel. He was a night owl after all. But then she noticed his phone on the desk and his keys sitting next to the coffee mug. Her expression shifted. That's when her eyes locked onto the computer screen. The monitor hadn't gone to sleep. A single line of text stood on the open email window. Every data point leaves a trace. If you don't stay where you left your trace, you become a shadow. The first wave of panic began right then. No one believed Daniel Cross could just vanish like that. He was obsessive, structured. He didn't live a single day without planning it out. And now all that remained of him was an encrypted message sent at 3:17 a.m., 7:45 a.m. Troy Benson, the building's head of security, made his way to the system control room to check the high-level access logs. A former FBI agent, Troy had been with the company for 2 years and knew the system inside out. But that morning he began to question just how much he really knew. The timestamps on the screen began slowing him down. Daniel had entered the building at 2:12 a.m. The access card data was clear, but there was no exit record. Stranger still, at 3:25 a.m., a network connection was made from an unrecognized device on the 16th floor. The device didn't belong to the company or any of its employees. Troy shut off the screen. He had a bad feeling. And the strangest part, this wasn't just a technical gap, it was a gap designed by someone. Daniel's last days had been unusually quiet. He wasn't talking much, held meetings alone, rarely opened the door to his office. Twice in the past week he had privately summoned the company's newest engineer, Derek Linwood, into his office. Following those meetings, Derek had been let go. No reason was clearly stated, but a janitor who had been cleaning nearby reported seeing Daniel return to that same chair late one night and stare at a blank screen for hours. By noon, the building was fully evacuated. Police had been called, not for technical anomalies, but because this disappearance made no logical sense. That's when the case was handed to me. The archive room door was locked, but system logs indicated it had been opened during the night. The temperature sensor inside confirmed activity occurred around dawn. Even stranger, between 2:40 and 3:10 a.m., the security cameras recorded nothing, as if those 30 minutes had been wiped from existence. The phrase, "you become a shadow," from Daniel's email wasn't just a metaphor. The company had been developing a still unpatented piece of software in testing. ShadowPath, a technology designed to allow digital access without leaving a trace. Only 3 people knew about it: Daniel Cross, Troy Benson, and the company's former partner, Julia Keene, who mysteriously left the firm 2 years prior. Where was the prototype? The answer was hidden in a vault room behind a bookshelf in Daniel's office. The safe was still there, but the only USB stick inside contained no data. Just a single note. The note read, "Companies die like people. And before they die, they stop speaking." There was no signature, but the handwriting strongly resembled Daniel's. If it were you, where would you start looking? At the security footage, the digital footprints of ShadowPath, or the one person who needed Daniel the most to keep their job? If there's something to be solved here, it lies in the symmetry within the unusual details. Some things aren't written in a case file. Some answers won't fit into log entries. But maybe you'll notice them. A hidden number sequence runs through this story. Listen carefully. Drop your thoughts in the comments. The first real clue to where Daniel Cross went might already be in front of you. In the next chapter, the backstory of Shadowpath, Julia Keene's return, a ghost access in the security system, and the emergence of an unexpected witness. Now the mystery deepens. Sometimes to find someone, you must follow the footprints they tried hardest to erase. And some prints only glow in the dark. When the case file opened in front of me, Daniel Cross's disappearance didn't feel like the vanishing of a single man. It felt like the collapse of a system. This wasn't the silence of a person, it was the silence of a structure. And sometimes, silence is the loudest scream. Every digital trace in Cross's office had been systematically wiped, as if someone had erased every footprint he left behind with algorithmic precision. But no cleanup is ever perfect. There's always a flaw. The first flaw was found in the archive room. Inside an air vent, someone had hidden a 3.5-inch floppy disk, the kind nobody uses anymore. It contained a single encrypted file. Its name, farewell_213.txt. It was password protected. But the strange part wasn't the encryption. It was the file's creation date, May 22, 2003. The exact day Daniel was appointed to his first data engineering role at the company. A file created 22 years ago. And the person who created it that day is now missing. It took time to gather information about the company's former co-founder, Julia Keene. Her past with Daniel wasn't a secret, but the details were murky. They had studied at MIT during the same years and later launched their first startup together. But in 2023, Julia suddenly left the company. The official reason? Personal matters. But unofficial rumors pointed to something more. One engineer claimed that before she left, Julia embedded a hidden access key deep within the system logs. Troy Benson denied the allegation, but a cross-check of the system files revealed a concealed module named Keene Protocol.v2. This module could only be activated with 2 access cards. Daniel Cross and Julia Keene. The question was Julia there the night Daniel disappeared? Security logs couldn't answer that. There was no recorded entry under her name. But at 3:02 a.m., an unidentified device connected to the building, a signal closely resembling an old remote access unit Julia had developed during her MIT years. At that same hour, a security camera on the 16th floor captured a vague shadow moving down a dim corridor. No face could be seen, no gate could be matched. But just as the shadow reached the door, the system's digital clock glitched for a split second. System clocks don't glitch, unless someone tells them to forget what time it is. As the investigation progressed, Daniel Cross's disappearance no longer felt like a personal mystery. It began to resemble a calculated collapse. Shadowpath was not just a testing tool. It was designed to protect its creator, a piece of code written to encrypt its own existence and erase itself when necessary. A digital ghost, and the person who wrote its first line of code had vanished. Then came something stranger. One of Cross's former consultants, Malcolm Stroud, contacted the FBI's data division. He claimed Daniel had been working on a threat for the future. Shortly after that, Malcolm was found dead in his apartment. Official cause: heart attack. But a copy of the encrypted file related to Daniel's disappearance was discovered on Malcolm's laptop. Its contents: a single haunting line like a verse from a poem. "Those who seek me must look to my shadow, but when the sun rises, I will be gone. Let me ask you this. At this point, what would you have done? Should the team have tracked down Julia Keene? Or should they have focused on analyzing the Shadow Path prototype? If you were on this case, which thread would you pull first? A hidden password left by Julia is concealed in this episode. The first person to decode it might predict where Daniel is. The password is hidden inside a word and it appears only once. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Every detail matters when you're chasing shadows. In the next episode, Shadow Path unexpectedly activates. A shocking truth about Troy Benson is revealed and a mysterious external user account accessing the building system is exposed. It's easy to uncover a lie. The hard part is finding out who benefits from the truth. When Shadow Path activated, the system responded unexpectedly. The company's servers began to lock up, one by one. Access permissions were revoked, some files self-deleted while others reappeared. It behaved like a living organism. The code didn't just respond, it reacted. Julia Keene finally made an appearance. A letter sent through her lawyer was delivered. "You can't stop Shadow Path, because it's no longer yours. I didn't write it. What wrote it were the erased mistakes." Attached, a coordinate, an abandoned server farm outside Boston. The gate had one word: echo. For an echo to exist, there must first be a sound. Inside the server room, a 22-year-old system was running. Its entry date: 2003. A screen with one message. "Hello, Troy." The screen asked for biometric verification. Troy's fingerprint unlocked the system. Files emerged. Private accesses, encrypted payments, a video. Daniel Cross's voice. "Troy, I shouldn't have trusted you. Julia, it's still hard to forgive you. If you're watching this video, I've most likely disappeared. But the real question is why? Because some information keeps people from surviving. This system is no longer just mine. It's my will." At that moment, Troy Benson's expression shifted. The silence in his face was the clearest reflection of guilt, but he still insisted. "This is fiction. This system is Daniel's paranoia." Yet at the end of the recording, a reflection on the screen changed everything. An email sent by the company's former CTO before his death was found in the system. It had been sent weeks before Daniel's disappearance, but Troy had hidden it, claiming it had been archived by the system. A Shadow Path is not just a system. It's a digital sanctuary written by Daniel to erase his past. But what had Daniel wanted to erase? Before learning that, a strange occurrence happened in the system. As one of the servers shut down, another automatically took over. The signal from the newly activated server showed that Cross was still connected to the system. In other words, he was alive. However, the last message sent through the system was a complete riddle. "Everything that leaves a trace is wrong. Don't look for me. If you do, the system will protect me. Now it's your turn. Do you think Daniel is still alive? What is Troy's role in all of this? Why has Julia stayed silent? Has Shadow Path achieved self-awareness? Leave your thoughts in the comments. You might be the first to crack the code. And are you still here? Then hit the like button because this case isn't over yet. In the next episode, the first live connection will be made to determine if Daniel is alive. A secret signal from within the system will reach the FBI, and the true motivation behind everything will be revealed. When you reach the truth, it's not a sense of relief. Most of the time, it's a feeling of emptiness. Because answers don't always bring justice. When the codes from the abandoned server farm in Boston were handed over to the FBI's cybercrimes unit, the first encryption was cracked. The message Daniel had sent from within the system, everything that leaves a trace is wrong, and was not just a metaphor. Indeed, the system was algorithmically reconfiguring every new access, masking the incoming data, and even assimilating the analyzer into its own system. In short, Shadowpath had become a cyber organism, and within this organism a hidden file was unlocked, one that could take years to decipher. Phoenix.xlsx. The file could only be opened once. It contained all of Daniel Cross's communications, personal notes, and detailed documents about the company's internal corruption during the 6 months leading up to his disappearance. But there was one section that stood out. A draft of a conversation. Daniel, if you touch this system, it will consume you. Troy, what do you think you can do? I finance the system. Daniel, that's why I warned the code, not you. Troy, has Julia found out about this? Daniel, she stayed quiet because she was silenced. Everything was confirmed with the final document sent through Julia's lawyer. Troy Benson had wanted Shadowpath to be used for personal as well as commercial purposes. He had ordered the creation of backdoors in the system to redirect company data for his own benefit, manipulate rival companies, and sell investor information. When Daniel realized this, his first move was to reach out to Julia. They had not only shared a professional relationship, but a personal one in the past. But Julia chose silence to avoid losing her position on the board. That was until the day Daniel disappeared. When it became clear that Daniel hadn't actually disappeared and was sending live data from within the system, the team immediately started tracking. However, the system didn't allow them to physically pinpoint his location. Every data transfer was redirected to another country. Every connection was sent from a fake location. But there was one mistake. The mistake Daniel had left in the system. It gave away his real location. Columbia, Missouri, an old software lab. There, an isolated wireless connection was the central hub for Shadowpath. When the team arrived, they found only a desk, a monitor, and a voice recorder beside it. The last recorded words were, "The system doesn't protect me. I protect the system because if someone like Troy ever gains access to this code again, not only my past but all of ours will be erased. Survival isn't the issue. The issue is keeping the truth alive." Daniel Cross was never found. But the system was now under government control. Troy Benson was sentenced to 18 years in prison for corruption and data manipulation. Julia Keene resigned from her position, issued a public apology, but no charges were pressed against her. The company changed the name of Shadowpath. But there are still encrypted folders belonging to Daniel within the software. A 4-line poem remains unsolved. When time stops, a code falls into the dark. In every line, a secret is hidden. The cost of every secret a life. So do you think Daniel really escaped, or is he hidden inside another system? Was it possible for Shadowpath to achieve consciousness, or was everything part of a planned manipulation? Julia's silence. Was it loyalty or fear? Write your thoughts in the comments. If you were in his shoes, would you destroy such a system or would you protect it? Remember, a small comment sometimes uncovers a big secret. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to witness the resolution of more mysterious cases. This file is closed, but the next case might already be in progress. Stay tuned.